probably too late at night again. So I'm always like, oh, I'm gonna start earlier. But do I ever? I really don't. So I went about 2 weeks. I did about a 2-week hair wash cycle, which seems to be kind of standard for me, really. I was thinking I could use some oil for separation and detangling, but I might just use this leave-in conditioner to start help me detangling my hair. So I used a ton. I used the Selsun Blue Natural salicylic acid shampoo, but I used a ton, and I mean a ton of conditioner. Like I laid it on thick. I sometimes feel like, oh, I shouldn't get it on my roots, but if I do, you know what? It's all good. Because even today, like my sister saw me and she thought I had washed my hair. She's like, did you wash your hair like before I did? And I'm like, no, actually I haven't. And there was something about like the rain in the air and the humidity, and then I added more water back into my hair. And I think it just made it. Well, I've been doing like very water styling. Like I always use water to style my hair, but I used to love the Aussie leave-in conditioner, but now I feel like I don't want to use it anymore because I feel like it's kind of heavy maybe. I don't know. And I'm kind of just going back to old school stuff where I use, well, in the past, I would just use like this Yves Rocher Minoi hair oil. And I think I'm going to mix some of that in with the leave-in conditioner because I just don't want it to feel sticky. Like I want some slip, you know? But every week or every other week, I definitely do need to wash my hair because honestly, like you need to clean your scalp. So I use the salicylic acid sulfate shampoo. It seems to work. I mean, maybe I could do a once a week hair wash, but another reason I don't is because when I take a shower, I always let the water hit my scalp a lot. So that's one thing I do. And then I wet down my hair constantly when I'm combing it out and detangling it. So I just feel like I don't need to like completely wash my hair all the time. It's gonna be a long detangling session because I brushed my hair on Saturday morning, but I went a couple days just doing finger detangling and I didn't brush out my hair for a couple days. And I usually think it's good to brush your hair before you wash it, but I don't know, I just decided not to this time, so I was like, I'll just finger detangle it once I'm done washing. That's what I decided. So I knew I was going to be in for a session. Thanks. Already I feel like my hair is not as wet as I want it on the side. Because I want slippiness. wash your hands, wash up your hands. Hi. Get my hands nice and washed. Okay. Let's keep finger detangling. I'm good. Thank you. So I guess I want to talk about the microfiber towel maybe. I don't know. So many people love the microfiber towel, and I did a video about it like over a year and a half ago, because the first time I used the microfiber towel, there was one thing I didn't like. I didn't like how small it was. It was just too tiny. I like a big towel. And after you wash it, like, it's never the same again. It's just linty, and it's just not nice the way that a nice cotton absorbent, like 100% cotton towel is. So I honestly just think there's a lot of hype over microfiber towels. I mean, if you really feel like a microfiber towel like just does your hair good, but when I think about my super long hair journey, and people would say, well, you need this kind of towel. And I'm like, why? Why do you need this kind of towel? And then I know other people have different ways that they like to dry their hair. But my biggest recommendation is just buy the biggest 100% cotton beach towel for your hair. And just use those towels for your hair. Make it the bigger the better. And I feel like a cotton towel is better for your hair than a microfiber towel. It's funny because I don't mind wearing like polyester or microfiber type or rayon clothing, but for some reason, like, when it comes to towels, people are okay with the microfiber one. I'm kind of like the reverse, I guess. So I feel like when it comes to drying your hair, pictures are falling off the wall again. It's so weird. It might just be the kind of hangers that I'm using because I'm thinking. But it freaks me out every time it happens. I'm like, how did this picture, it just really freaks me out. Like, how does a picture fall off the wall like that? I feel kind of shaken. I don't know why, but like when that happens, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so weird. What is going on? Like, I think I know what's happening now. It's just that, okay, I use these kind of sticky things instead of putting nails in the wall. I use like those Velcro clips. And I think certain frames just don't like maybe they for like a year they'll stick, but I just feel like because it's been pretty hot. It's been like, I don't know, 104 degrees here, which is like 40 Celsius maybe where you guys live. And I don't always run. I run my air conditioner minimally. Like, I don't like to run it all the time. In fact, I shut off my air conditioner earlier because I'm just like, ugh, I don't know. Maybe I'll turn it on for a little bit just to get some air circulating. But I just am not the biggest fan of air conditioning because it's just so stagnant and it gets really cold. But I think if you don't run it all the time, that you definitely do have some issues with maybe, I don't know, those little sticky things, maybe just like the heat is making them detach from the wall. But then in the wintertime, a picture fell off. That was just really freaky. And it's weird how just that one particular one fell off the wall. Okay. It just fell off the wall. It's nothing. It is nothing. It is nothing, I'm telling you. It is absolutely nothing. I don't know. But I want to detangle both sides, of course. Oh, this is just my natural hair texture, really. I think because in the past, like, I didn't really let it be. Like, I didn't let it just be itself. Well, I did, but I didn't. Like, let me explain. So, I think something about just, like, because I've done more wet styling, I think because in the past, I did, like, use water, and I did use oil to detangle my hair, but I think because I started using more of it, more of the waviness is just popping out. Go make sure that picture is back on the wall where it should be. I might just get a new adhesive for it, maybe. Maybe I'll get a new adhesive for it. Ooh la la, say Sharon, but I want to ask you something, okay? Don't be offended, but people are talking about this on the TikTok. Is there a trash train in Paris? Is this true? I just want to know if somebody that lives in Paris, like, because I don't know how true this is, because I guess there's some Americans that have been going to Paris and they said, oh, they feel upset because they felt decepted to see because the parks smell like urine. Well, so do the parks in Los Angeles and New York. I'm like, I don't know what you want, buddy pal. You went to a big city. What did you think was going to happen? You went to a giant city like Paris that's as big like LA and New York, and you didn't think that there were going to be homeless people in the park or graffiti. I mean, I don't like those things myself, but I mean, I am not surprised. I am not surprised. But anyway, there was this guy. I don't know why he was filming this, but he was filming a trash train. It was like all these little things. Although I do think, I don't know. I live in the Inland Empire. I don't live in LA. We have really good like sanitation. Like they don't let trash pile up here. And then in the Empire, it's a no. Like we have street sweepers. Like we're a very like our cities, like the city I live in, it's like clean, like to the Hiltland and back, but not LA, not New York. So, but I didn't know. Like I'm just curious. Like anybody who lives in Paris, what is that little thing? Like the trash. Like why would somebody film it? It was like all these little trash bins, and they were like electronic, like on a train. It was very interesting. I was like, I don't understand. And it looked like it was going through a park. I was like, why would you film that? Why would you film that? I don't know. This guy must not have much to do, or he was very upset that he saw trash going by. I don't know. It was pretty funny. So I don't know. I'm just curious about this whole trash train phenomenon, but I don't think it's any different than like LA or New York, which are big cities too, and there's a lot of trash. And and our city's pretty clean, but have you been to San Bernardino? Oh, Boise, Idaho. It's like one of the parks. I mean, it's basically like a campground. And even here, like, I don't know. It's just hidden. It's more hidden. But I think it's endemic. Like, I think that there's definitely, I think they need to do something to help homeless people everywhere. So the guy that got upset that he saw, like, some trash and graffiti and it smelled like urine in the park in Paris. I don't know, like, did you not know that happens in the U.S. too? Like in New York and L.A., San Bernardino? I mean, I don't know. He was just very upset about it. So he said he saved a lot of money to go there. And I don't know what he thought he was going to see. I guess he thought he was going to see castles. And I was kind of confused because Paris is a big city, and actually, if you ever watched the movie Last Tango in Paris, like there were seedy-looking parts of Paris in the 1970s. So I don't know, as if this is a new thing. Like, I think all big cities have seedy elements to them. But I don't know. He was just very upset about it. It was tragic. Oh my gosh, say tragic. Because he saw a trash train go by. I don't know. But now I've been kind of fascinated by that thing. I'm like, I've never seen anything like that in the US. I mean, it's kind of clever. You have a whole bunch of little trash bins going together electronically, and they just, like, I was kind of mesmerized by it. But the part I didn't understand was that I'd probably have to see myself was there somebody pulling it along, or is it just electronic and it's like programmed to go, and like how does it get connected like that? And I'm gonna have to look this up because I don't like trash. but I was very fascinated and intrigued by the trash train in Paris. See, I love after I've detangled my hair a bit, because then you get to start working through a section like that, and I love that. I don't know, that's just my favorite part of, like, this is where, like, my hair does become, like, if you wanted to, like, really accentuate the waviness of your hair, you could just scrunch your hair. But obviously I'm not really doing that. But this weekend I kind of did accentuate the, like, waviness of my hair, like, by a lot. Maybe I'll make a short where you can see it, because I went 2 days without, like, I just finger detangled my hair, and it was kind of a fun, like, sometimes I feel like I should always keep my hair in a braid, but I don't know, like, this weekend I was like, for some reason I wanted my hair to be out of a braid. I just think better in general, en general, it is better to keep your hair in a braid, because then it keeps tangles at bay and there's less time detangling and whatnot. Well, I'm just surprised I'm actually able to run my fingers through my hair to the extent I am, but I think we need more of this. Okay, for this section right here, give it more slippy whippy, and then I take water too, kind of like just get it going, just to give it more, I don't know, like leverage, more slip. Might not be as, like, wanting to detangle as I like. I'm still freaked out about my picture falling off the wall like that. That freaked me out. I don't know why. And it's the Death Valley Ghost Town drawing that I did. Okay. I never believed in ghosts. I never believed in ghosts. I always, maybe it's a Jen. Is it a Jen instead of a ghost? I don't know. Could it be? I don't know. I don't really believe in ghosts. I don't. But, like, yesterday, I saw my mom for her birthday, and they like to go to secondhand stores. And I don't know, sometimes I just don't really love secondhand stores. Well, I think, yeah, dry hair might be better for you, but I need my hair wet to, like, detangle it. If I let my hair dry and I didn't put anything in it, like any leave-in conditioner or any oil, then I'd be Tangle Town. And when I was little, I remember my mom was always frustrated because she's like, oh, it's really hard to detangle your hair, and, like, you always cry because, like, when she would brush out my hair. So the thing I loved as a kid was this detangling spray. And I just remember being so obsessed with that thing. And how she thought that was like a godsend for my hair. I wonder if I can try and do some combing now. Just see how much I can get through. My hair really absorbs the water though, like quickly. Like, look at this. Okay, so I got this section pretty wet, and it's almost dry. So it absorbs it pretty quickly. I think what it is, maybe Renaud, maybe you want to put your fingers through a woman's hair that's completely detangled. Or maybe, oh, I don't know, qu'est-ce que c'est? Do you understand? My French is so good. You know, like, a few little phrases. I used to know so much more. Sometimes I feel like being a creative person, like a musician or an actor, might not be the best thing for your mental health. Or maybe people that, like, I don't know if people have noticed this, and I don't think it's true for everybody, but I think a lot of people that are very creative do struggle with mental health issues, and I was convinced by that when I read Marlon Brando's biography, which he had a ghostwriter for, by the way, because that man definitely had mental health issues, but he did a little bit better than, I would say, his mother, who was an alcoholic, and then some of his children, which definitely became alcoholics, just like his mother was. And I think sometimes we have to discuss, could it be that a musician, maybe, I don't know, maybe they struggled with mental health issues all their life, but could the public just being so cruel to them, being so hateful to them, because you, like, okay, when I was 13, I remember in 1992, this is a long time ago, I remember being a little confused by why Sinead O'Connor tore up a picture of the Pope. Like, I remember hearing about it on the news, and sometimes I would watch Saturday Night Live, but I didn't happen to watch that episode. Sometimes I would stay up late and see it. I didn't watch that episode, but, I mean, I didn't really understand, like, why exactly she did it. But I thought, well, she's trying to make some sort of a statement. And I was 13 at the time, but a lot of people just, I guess, really hated her for it, and I just didn't understand, like, why all the hate for her. And then later on I heard, like a year, I don't know if it was like a year later, a few months later, that she, like, bought a house, or she gave a house to some people in Southern California. And I thought, well, she must be a pretty good person to give somebody a house, because most celebrities don't do that. Like, they don't just give somebody a house. They're not just that thoughtful and kind. And apparently, I didn't know this, but I guess Madonna, like, because, I mean, I wasn't that deep into what Sinead O'Connor did, and it was a long time ago, but I didn't know this, but Madonna tore up a picture of Sinead O'Connor and acted like she was, like, an affront to humanity in some way. And that's so disgusting that Madonna would do that. Like, look, Madonna can do whatever she wants, like, she can express herself in any way, but it turns out that Sinead O'Connor was speaking out about abuse, and she suffered from abuse, like, in her home, and she feels like that had to do with, like, her upbringing as a Catholic. So she was actually, the thing that people didn't really get was she was kind of making, like, a social protest, and I watched some interviews that she did. I mean, she's a very beautiful singer. She's not my favorite singer at all, but there's a few points I want to make about this. So she was making a point about how there is emotional abuse and physical abuse because of the Catholic Church, and she didn't believe that you needed to have somebody intercede on the behalf of you to have with somebody else to have a relationship with God because of the abuse that she suffered. And she was also pointing out that many other children have suffered abuse, like at the hands. I'm not saying that the Catholic Church is perfect, because I would say there's a lot of Protestant denominations that probably do the same thing. But what I thought was interesting about her, and like I said, I haven't converted to Islam, but one thing I did think was very interesting about Sinead O'Connor was that she converted to Islam after all that abuse that she suffered and after her feelings about the Pope. And I do think that's very interesting. And how she said that she felt like Islam allowed her to have a closer connection with the Abrahamic faiths than Christianity or Judaism did. And I thought, because and just how pure Islam is and its treatment of everybody. And I know some people are going to be like, but there's extremist Islam. Well, there's extremist Christianity too. Really, have you not seen Caravanning Boys? Oh my God. So most Muslims aren't like that, and there are almost 1 billion Muslims on earth. And I feel like it's interesting. Her life did have a very, very tragic end, but I do believe that she was trying to find peace. And I do think that's very interesting that she was drawn to Islam. And this keeps happening again and again. People that you would never think that would convert to Islam do. And it just makes you kind of think there's something there, I feel like. And I do feel like, as somebody, I'm not saying that I'm converting to Islam, but I do find this interesting that I do feel like there's a little bit more of a purity of the relationship with God that Muslims have than a lot of Christian churches have, because there's just something about Christianity that's just lacking on some level, that I don't think it was originally intended to be that way. But I feel like the problem is this. I feel like it's this wanting to prove yourself, your ego, and there's just some sort of egocentricity about people saying that they're Christian, and just proclamations that you're a Christian. And I don't see Muslims doing those things. Muslims, they're a little bit more humble. First off, they consider their faith a submission to Allah. They're not just always bragging I'm a Christian and I love, there's nothing wrong with loving Jesus. Well, guess what? Muslims love Jesus too. And that's the thing, I don't know. It's just but there's just something about Christianity, organized version of Christianity, that I just really don't super congeal with. But I can see why people are drawn to Islam, and I'm not saying I'm converting, but I definitely see why people do, because there's just a purity of faith that you see with practicing Muslims that I don't really feel exists with Christians. I just don't feel that camaraderie or that brotherhood with Christians. You just don't feel it, okay? I've never felt that, and I've tried on numerous occasions, to join a church, to join a youth group, and you just never really felt welcomed. But when you start interacting with Muslims, they call each other brother and sister, and there's just this solidarity and this equality in Islam that I just don't feel exists in Christianity. And I feel there is a little bit of egocentricity in Christianity. That's just my view on that. I think people just want, it's kind of a bragging point, oh, I am a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm a Christian. But Muslims are a little bit more humble about their faith, and I do think it's interesting. This is just my thought. Why is it so many people that have suffered abuse in Christianity end up being drawn towards Islam? I think we need to think about that. And I'm not even a Muslim, but why are people not open to that? I'm just saying, there's just something to it. And there's a reason why people are being drawn to that faith. There's a reason for it, I I just feel like there's something to it. There's like something going on with that. This is just my thought. But, I know everybody has their own viewpoints on faith, religion, and politics, and I don't really care what people, like what faith, religion, politics people want to be, but I just think it's very sad what happened to Sinead O'Connor. But when I did see her in some interviews a few years ago, it seemed like she was finally finding a kind of peace that she had never found before in Islam, and like more of an acceptance in Islam than she had in Christianity. I mean, I just do think that's interesting, Well, happy birthday to you, Joanie Vese, Joanie Vese, Joanie Vese, Joanie Vese. I know very limited French, okay? I took it in high school. It's not the best. But Joanie Vese, Joanie Vese, Joanie Vese, Joanie Vese. I can't sing happy birthday, I think. That's not correct. I'm sorry. That's like all I do remember. But, I've just noticed that a lot of musicians like Prince, Sinead O'Connor, and others that were very talented, they die young. And I guess they're saying that Sinead O'Connor, they haven't figured out exactly like what her cause of death was. Maybe she had health issues. I don't know. I just thought it was a sad story because I feel like from a few interviews that I watched, because I was kind of curious, like I hadn't really been following her in the last few years, but I looked her up and I watched a few interviews, and it seemed like she was finally finding peace a few years ago, and I just thought that was interesting, like how she was finding peace. And I think it says a lot about somebody who tore up a picture of the Pope. So she very much believed in God, and I do believe in God. I'm sorry, I know a lot of people don't believe in God, and I do respect that. Like, you can believe in whatever you believe, but it wasn't like she was like being anti-God. She was being anti, like, having an interceding person. Tonight you're in concert. Are you at a concert right now? You can sing. I can't sing, so please don't be mad at me. I am not a musician. It is. I mean, when I was younger, I could sing, but I sing okay. But I'm just not like a musician, so I tried my best. Sometimes, like, words in French and Spanish come back to me, but I do find that the French pronunciations were easier in my mind than the Spanish ones. Like, my tongue was just able to master French pronunciations of words. And then when I took Spanish in college, it got very, like, I know, like, people that are linguists, they wouldn't have this issue, but for me, like, when I took Spanish, like, I wanted to do French pronunciations for Spanish words, and you can't do that. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. In fact, I think there was a funny history documentary where a whole bunch of Mexican students who grew up speaking Spanish like fluently were laughing because we were watching a documentary about Pancho Villa, and I think it might have been created by these British researchers in the 60s. But apparently, I didn't know why everybody was laughing. But the reason being is because the way that they were pronouncing words, they were using like an Italian accent, and I guess like the way that they said it wasn't quite right. Like they were using an Italian accent to try and pronounce Spanish words, and that just doesn't work apparently. And people were just laughing, and then the professor said, because he was fluent in Spanish, and he had to explain to everybody, he's like, well, this is the reason everybody was laughing. Lots of separation. I think we're pretty good on this side. Separate. Oh, it's not perfect. But it's better than it was. Put some more water back in. I just feel like the water just makes it easier to detangle and separate. I kind of want to do this section right here next, just to get it some nice, make sure it has good separation before I start. Spanish? No, I'm not Spanish. I took Spanish in college, not high school, in college, because it's California and a lot of people are of Mexican origin, which is, I would say Mexican people have maybe, I don't know, not exactly half and half European, half indigenous, but maybe like, from what I've seen of a lot of the ancestry results for people that are Mexican, maybe they're a little bit more indigenous than Spanish, but a lot of them do have Spanish surnames. So, but I don't have a Spanish background. I don't have a Mexican background. I personally am English, Syrian, German. I mean, a little bit of French way back when, but predominantly English and Syrian, with some German and French and Dutch farther back, but predominantly English and Syrian. Those are my two. So I have a lot of Syrian background. And then even though on my English side, they all had dark hair. And a lot of people in England were like a mixture of like Nordic and Mediterranean types. And I would say like you still have a lot of Mediterranean looking people in all European countries, really. Because the Romans colonized England way back when. Migration, I don't know. I'm just a mixture of a lot of things, but I'm not Spanish. That's one thing, like, I'm not, like, that just doesn't show up in my DNA, but I've taken Spanish classes. I decided on another thing regarding this channel. I'm not going to review products anymore unless it's like something really good. Story time about that. Because I have always done my best review of any product that was ever sent to me for a promise of a free review. But recently, I felt like the last time I did one, what I did wasn't like appreciated enough. And I wasn't being compensated. Like, I was not being compensated to do that review. I was just like doing a free review in exchange for the product. And a lot of people on YouTube, they demand that you get paid for it. Like, I didn't demand that. I didn't demand the payment. So it was basically like free advertising for them, and I usually don't mind, but this is the reason. I usually don't mind. I'm not Native Mexican. That's interesting. I guess some people think that, and they think, oh, are you... I have no Native American ancestry. My mom used to think we did, but when we took the ancestry DNA test, that was proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that we didn't. So I'm English and Syrian and some German and a little bit of French way back when, but I'm primary English and Syrian. I'm very East Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, and English. Those are my like predominant ancestry like brackets. And then like after that, a little bit of German. Farther back, like French and Dutch. But yeah. But have you guys ever seen Catherine Zeta-Jones? Like, she looks like a Spaniard. Like, there are a lot of people in England. There are a lot of people in, like, in your country, France. There's a lot of people in other Western European countries that have a very Mediterranean look to them. That's because, like, there were Mediterranean people that migrated all across Europe from the Roman times, okay? So, people traveled back and forth. So, like, you have people in your own countries that look very, and one thing I will say is, like, my mom definitely has, like, blonde hair, but my dad, who's Syrian and English, like, on his English side, like, his great-grandparents, his grandparents, they all had really, really dark hair. And they look kind of like olive complected. Because there are people that come from England that have like a Mediterranean look to them. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, it's pretty common. I think it's more common than people realize, you know? So, no, I'm not Spanish, I'm not Mexican. Those are, yeah, not that. I'm Syrian and English mostly. That's what I am. That's primarily what I am. Syrian and English. 100% Syrian and English. Syrian and English. Syria. I love you, Syria. I love you, England, because that is me. Well, I mean, we would always say, I guess technically it's like Lebanon too, but like they used to call it Greater Syria at the time that my great-grandparents lived there, and technically, like, the ones that left were on the Syrian side of the border, and 8 miles away you have Rashi of Lebanon. And yes, I have a lot of like third and fourth cousins that are full Lebanese, but these countries are all very small, and I don't know, we always said Syrian, but like technically I guess it's what you would call mountain Lebanese people, but then there's an outlier because we also have Aleppo ties. So yeah, because I was like, why is there ties to Aleppo on my 23andMe thing? Because I guess some of my third grade grandparents were from Aleppo. And then definitely England ties. And it's interesting, like when I'm looking at 23andMe, which I think has turned out to be pretty darn accurate. They have had a lot of accuracy, by the way. I've been pretty darn impressed with their results and like what they tell you about like where your origins come from. Pretty darn impressed. But there were a couple Swedish towns, not Swedish, Swiss towns. So like the German part, it's almost, I guess they said Alsace-Lorraine, but this is way back when. I almost think the way back when German stuff was Swiss. Even though when I looked at the family tree back in the 1600s, it was technically Germany. But felt like my separation could have been better. Good night.